a boy for me. Oh, can't you see how happy we would be?
Okay, welcome to Poets and Pints, May 2020. Can everybody hear me okay? I can see some pictures. Put your thumbs up. Yeah, that's good. All right, excellent. Well, welcome to the show. My name is Tony Plocido. I am your host and curator of Poets and Pints. We do this every month on the third Wednesday for those who don't know. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/poets and pints, or you can go to our actual website, which is crackedwalnut.com. That's crackedwalnut.com/poets and pints. Not the ampersand, because that doesn't work in URLs. All right. So tonight, we got a few announcements. And then there'll be other announcements that will be periodically put into the chat. I have Peter Stein helping me tonight in the chat. So just make sure you glance at the chat now and again to see if there's any new messages, new things you should know. We break away from our typical setup when we're doing these virtual shows. So usually what we would do is we would intermingle the open mic with the features because it makes the show flow better, I think. But it just works better in a virtual environment to do the features first, take a break, and then do the open mics. Sorry about that. I got a little far away from the mic. So if you didn't hear me, what I said is it just works a little better in the virtual environment to do the features first and then take a break and then do the open mic afterwards, which was a sign up ahead of time. I don't want to say it's full. There's a lot of people who signed up, but we might have time for more. So you can put your name in the chat or directly message Peter Stein if you're interested in being in the open mic, and he will get you on the list. It's a randomized order on that. The other announcement I have is for those of you who ordered t-shirts. The t-shirts are being made. They're on their way. They should arrive either later this week or early next week. They said when we were ordering the shirts, but it was in small print, so a lot of people missed it, that they would come on or around the 27th, which would be, I believe, Wednesday of next week. But I think they'll show up sooner than that because I'm already getting emails about how they're on the way. And my last announcement is, like I mentioned, we're part of Cracked Walnut, and Cracked Walnut is a local chapter of the League of Minnesota Poets. And we are a nonprofit. Well, the League of Minnesota Poets is nonprofit, and we are part of them. And we have a board of our own. So the League has a board, but Cracked Walnut also has a board. And we are currently looking for people who are interested in helping out with the board. We only meet 4 times a year. We meet quarterly, and we work on programs such as putting together shows like this around town. Right now, we currently have 2 monthly shows and then 2 other shows that alternate. So the 2 monthly shows are Poets and Pints, and the other one is called Writers Read, which is on hiatus during this quarantine. And then we have Bridges, which is put on by Stanley Kuzunoki, and we have Literary Lights, which is put on by Donna Isaac. And those 2 shows, they alternate months. So, because they're both at Next Chapter Books in St. Paul. So we're looking to put together a few more shows. We're looking to put together some workshops, some programs, and we just need more help. So if you have any interest in being on a board, It is a nice position. There's also opportunities to possibly join the leadership of the board. So if you're interested, let me know and I will get you the necessary paperwork to sign up. It doesn't really take that long. And then we will run it past the board and then you're in if everybody agrees. It's kind of simple. So with that being said, let's jump into the show. I'm going to start today. Typically, I read a poem from a poet you might not have heard of. I would be shocked actually if you've not heard of this poet. Maybe some of you haven't. She's better known as a musician. Her name is Ani DeFranco. And I'm going to read a poem called Pulse because I like this poem a lot. And then we'll get going with the features. You crawled into my bed that night like some sort of giant insect, and I found myself spellbound at the sight of you. Beautiful, grotesque, and all the rest of that bug stuff. Bluffing your way into my mouth, behind my teeth, reaching for my scars. That night we got kicked out of 2 bars and laughed our way home. That night you leaned over and threw up in your hair, and I held you there thinking I would offer you my pulse. If I thought it would be useful, I would give you my breath. Except the problem with death is that we have some 100 years, and then they can build buildings on our only bones 100 years, and then your grave is not your own, and we lie in our bed in our graves, unable to save ourselves from the quaint tragedies we invent and undo, from the stupid circumstances we slalom through. And I realized that night that the hall light, which seemed so bright when you turned it on, is nothing compared to the dawn, which is nothing compared to the light which steps from me while you're sleeping, cocooned in my room, beautiful and grotesque, resting. The night we got kicked out of 2 bars and laughed our way home, I thought I would offer you my pulse. I would give you my breath. I would offer you my pulse. I would give you my breath. Okay. Yes. Weird to not have applause. We'll get used to it someday. Or actually, I hope we don't. I really like applause and I don't want us to get used to it. So we are going to jump right in to our featured poet. Our first feature tonight comes recommended. Yes. Their former teacher, Brian Baumgart, I went to him and I asked him, I was like, do you have a student you're really proud of and thinks they deserve to be on the show? And he didn't hesitate. He sent me a name right away and I got a hold of this person and now I'm going to introduce them. Kennedy Lang, or Ken. They were brought to us by, like I said, by their professor, Brian Baumgart. Kennedy has been writing for as long as they can remember, and it's always been the best way they've felt they could express themselves. Born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they've been surrounded by incredible artists and writers of all of their life. Besides writing, they enjoy cooking, sketching, journaling, traveling, and making bracelets. You can find them on Instagram at Libra Writes, but that's with 2 I's. Facebook at Kennedy Lang, and on Twitter is Libra Writes with 1 I. Everybody, please welcome and let me unmute them. Please welcome. Come on, there we go.
Hey,
Can I hear that?
everybody. Yeah, hey, thank you
All
so
right.
much,
We're a little
Tony.
bit quiet, so but
Okay,
welcome to the show and give
cool.
us what you got.
Awesome, thank you. If my volume is lower at any point, let me know. I'll just keep this
It's pretty
microphone.
low right now, at least to me. So can you get louder?
I got the microphone right by my mouth, so I'm hoping this is all right. Okay, good. Awesome. See, it's good for everybody else, looks like. Let me just turn one thing off quick. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a piece I wrote over quarantine. It's called Crown Shyness. Grab it right here. When distance starts to signify love over a lack of it, I understand solitude as a form of prayer. Room to grow alone, to spread roots without entwining one another, taking each rainstorm and sun drop like communion, giving confession to the squirrels. I've never known religion to be so private. Even smiles these days are concealed, the worship of mouth muscles left to expanding fabric. So when the cashier beckons me forward after spraying down the conveyor belt with a practiced hand like a windshield wiper, I make sure to place my onions in the curve of a banana, the oat milks standing guard against the crackers and olive oil, arranged like a mosaic for them to pluck. And finally, I understand what it means for a smile to reach the eyes. Thank you, everybody. I see your claps. Okay, this next piece, I would just like to give a trigger warning for rape or sexual assault. So here goes. I like to imagine my rapist living on a door-sized island, as if Jack never met Rose, never sketched on the promenade, or even switched his gaze from the smokestacks, looking for women above him and blending their waists softly, pounding in circles, turning his hands gray, but softly, cradling her likeness between two fingers and taking her with him into the sea. My rapist would thrive alone, throwing coconuts at the rocks, not for drinking, but just to watch them break. I do not know how to make the ugliest thing that can happen to anyone sound beautiful. I have tried to force my rape into poetry, to assault my own assault into telling me why it happened. Rape does not leave inside you a wound that will not heal. It turns you into the wound. I cannot remember a time when I was not open, when it didn't hurt to feel the wind blow. My jaw is slack and stuck saying any M name because, like Bloody Mary, I'm afraid it'll summon him somehow, that he'll smell his name on my teeth and take it as an invitation, that the slip of a syllable could feel like a bayonet through my neck and out of my mouth in a foreign tongue. I'd rather be a sword swallower, blood and gunpowder for saliva, sucking so much on blades every night I forget what he tastes like. Time should have forced close this skin into a soft pink sewing patch with loose threads to pull on when I think of him. I am terrified I will turn the world red, because no matter who tries to be my tourniquet, I will never be closed enough. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. This next one is called An Obvious Ode to My Lover's Eyes. Lover, sometimes I cannot hide behind metaphors. There are nights I lay next to you, wishing we could fall asleep with the lights on, and drift off in a longing gaze, affixing my eyes wide with metal fingers if I must, clockwork orange style, yours plated like cups of coffee on little saucers, hypnospirals of cream churning at the edges. And if I weren't so dizzy, I would kiss them shut. Look at me. You've turned me into the poet who writes about their lover's eyes, who wonders how much life could push through glass flower pots. I think yours are the clearest, the deepest, richest soil, life cradling life, the potential, the hands of the earth dropping seeds. Leave these in your footprints, for I will grow even after you've gone. Thank you, everybody. Okay. This one is called Honey. Lately, you've taken to drinking tea, something mild you can gulp given its temperature, that won't send your blood into a frenzy or demand all your energy at once. You've never taken much to the darker side of things, never liking how coffee is still black with or without the sugar. You need the sunlight cast into a creek, the transparency of water and milk like a cloud floating along the bank, yielding to the current. A London fog, all simple and mild things, modeled down so much by the rain, it's no wonder her eyes are gray. Her hair spills over her shoulders and into your hands like new honey. And for the first time, you do not know what to do with so much sweetness. But there is never too much of it, you said. I said the same for bitterness. Tell me again how you take your tea. I cannot promise I will make it as sweet as she does. Thank you. This will be my last piece, so you may, clap and everything after this one as well. It's called A Poem for My Crying Self Alone in Bed at 3 a.m. Maybe now the frostbitten fingers of loneliness grip your shoulders, so even the 3 comforters, like layered hands restarting your heart as you sleep, do not leave you comforted. You are not here. Or standing on the tracks in Waldrug, away from the taxidermy and bumper stickers, worried one day your body will too be overflowing to the point of stagnancy. Tomorrow is never promised, but I'll let you in on a secret. Tonight it is. In the morning, your head may hurt and your bed will be empty, but the coffee will taste as it always has, at Fat Nat's served by a woman who calls us toots. On your aunt's farm at 11 years old, earned by washing 4 dishes, fueling the paint roller, blistering our fingers, turning the cabinet, chartreuse like Easter candy. There will come a day you take a sip and it will warm both your hands and your soul, like holding someone else's hand and kissing them at once. Even now, writing this for you, for us, for me, I cry knowing one day I won't have to remind myself I've been happy before. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you,
Thank
Kennedy.
you.
Great job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It's been a privilege. I'm very excited to see what everybody else has.
Good job, Kennedy.
Thank you.
Hey, Tony, I can't hear you at all when you're talking.
So I adjusted my mic. Is it louder now?
Yeah.
Can people hear me? Do I sound okay or am I still quiet? Give me a thumbs up or down or. I'm good. Okay. I did turn it up. And with that, I wanted to unmute Kennedy because I wanted to ask you, how much performing have you done around town? Any?
Ooh, no, actually, I've gone to a couple slam events, mostly button poetry in St. Paul, and I've done like some workshops, actually with some poets that have done slam poetry, but I've only ever performed to like a class, never really to like a room full of people that are there for slam poetry. So not
Okay.
much.
Well, and typically this show is done at a brewery. In a comedy room, so it's actually kind of perfect because everybody's perfectly sort of half circled around you,
Yeah.
So it works out nice, but we're working with what we got. But yeah, nicely done, especially if you're fairly new to it. I'm a big fan of the button poetry people too. They're supposed to do their own curated show on our show in July. With the quarantine, though, I have no idea what's happening with that, but they were going to curate the whole show and I was just going to sit back and watch. It was going to be great, but we'll see what happens. But thank you again for being on the show, and thank you, Brian, for letting me know about Ken.
Thank you, especially Brian. I really appreciate the fact that I was recommended to all these wonderful people. So I definitely appreciate everybody's time and everything. Thank you so much.
All right, stick around though. Lots of good stuff coming. All right. So, all right, where are we? Okay. So the next person that was supposed to be on was a friend of mine. Her name is Emily. She's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and she had a real family emergency that popped up, the details of which are not for me to say, though I do know them. But anyway, so she has a very good reason for not being here. I'm going to try to get her on a future show because she's one of my favorite people. She's actually my little sister's best friend. And so it's kind of funny because there's 15 years difference between our ages, but uh, Emily makes me laugh without fail every time I talk to her. So I was really excited to have her on the show. I am sorry she can't be here. And I think that my sister dropped off too because that she figured out that Emily wasn't here, which I'll have to give her crap about that. So, George, we're going to unmute you here. We're going to skip right ahead to George.
Hi there.
All right. So let me,
Tony, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm still having a real hard time hearing you.
how's that?
That's better.
Okay. So I turned it up immensely. And now I should be able to stand back a little bit too. Sorry. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if George can hear me, then everybody else can hear me because George is 500 years old. I'm just kidding, George. All right, here we go. George's bio. George Colburn, a lifelong St. Paulite, but we'll forgive him for that. Graduated from Hamlin and Indiana universities. His first book, Payday, Poetry, Prose, and Possibilities, came out in 1973. His two most recent, Punctuated Echo in 2018 and Milking the Dragon in 2019, are available on Amazon Books. He has performed extensively across the Twin Cities and currently manages the Bird's Nest Poetry Open Mic Series, which is on the last Sunday of the month when things are normal. You guys aren't doing it right now, right?
No, it's on hiatus right now.
Okay. When things are normal, they're on the last Sunday. So not the fourth Sunday, but the last Sunday. His work has appeared in anthologies, Dasein, Admit One, Demilitarized Zones, the Vietnam or the Veterans After Vietnam, a coloring book of poetry for adults, and others. His poem Peace with Honor, Comrade Christmas 1971 is collected online in Minnesota Remembers Vietnam, the story wall, and he was a 2019 winner of the Minnesota Humanities Commission Veteran Voices Award. George's work is strongly influenced by interpreting between his deaf parents and the larger world and by the deaf community itself. You can find him on his website, Colburn, Colburn 12345.com. Everybody, please welcome George Colburn.
Well, thank you, Tony. That was a wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. I'm going to read from different books as I go along. The first one I want to read is from a book called A Punctuated Echo, and it's called The Old Three-Legged Milking Stool. Mama cried when it came up for bidding because her grandfather made it with his hands, his sandpapery old hands that milked every day from that oaken throne. That's not for sale, she shouted, as they grabbed it from the pile of old harnesses, milking machines, pitchforks, rakes, and pails, and began the sing-song auctioneering. She had no good use for it at all, but she remembered riding on the old Ford tractor on father's lap through the fields, first with the disking blades and then the tiller, then planting and harvesting, and finally plowing the corn stalks under. My life is being plowed under, she thought, plowed under like the family history here, plowed under without notice to heritage, without marking the tenacious men and women who grew this land like a child being raised, like her grandmother, the best fly fisherman in all of Pierce County, who sagely told her, catching fish is like catching men. First, you have to get their blood up. They can't sell everything, she thought. Thanks. This next one's called The Poetry Helpline. Is open when you need us. Every day of the year is staffed by experienced, empathetic authors and creative writing teaching assistants. We're ready to assist in clearing the mist from your mind. Hello, this is the Poetry Helpline. How may we versify your life today? Oh, I see. Oh, yes, certainly. No, you probably want the pity helpline. That's a completely different exchange. Okay, bye. Thanks for the exclamations. Hello, this is the Poetry Helpline. How may we versify your life today? Yes, that does sound serious, but I think we can show you a path forward. Before we begin, we have a few questions to help us direct your consternation. Have you already written your poem? Is this poem about your mother? Are you having any difficulty with couplets? Are you writing exclusively in rhyme? Have you shown this poem to anyone, and why? Do you read Sylvia Plath? Thank you. Let me put you on to one of our lyrical experts. Hello, this is the Poetry Helpline. This next poem is from my book called Milking the Dragon, and it's called Pieces Missing. No one is noticing, like a one-eyed squint or a hollow pant leg. Our hands have fewer fingers. A hesitant nod, a quick look away, determined to escape who we have become. No one is noticing our half-beating hearts, the gaping spaces that used to hold souls. So many more scars. We give away parts of us as if we don't need them, as if they scare us. No one is noticing. When we face mirrors, no reflection looks back. They flinch. We don't afford affection or acknowledge frailty. No one is noticing. We are disassembled. This next one is called Dancing, Dying. She gladly allowed me to take the lead, my hand lightly in the small of her back. I didn't quite recognize where we were, but I was certain I could never escape her. Would you like to swing on a star? Twirl and spin, swaying across an icy sky, no way out and no longer any returning, feeling heavier on each slowing turn, like gravity pulling each part of me down. Carry moonbeams home in a jar, as if each organ independently reaching was trying to leach out of my skin. The dance now only a flimsy excuse for holding the rest of my insides in. And be better off than you are. I shook with fear as my hands disappeared. as my arms began to flake like dust, legs to the knee dissolving away from me, my lips mute, my eyes unseeing, dissolution. You could be swinging on a star. Thanks. This next one's from my latest book. It's called An Undeclared War, Poetry Born in Vietnam. The sea at China Beach can quietly succumb to rain and mist as you walk along the white sand shore. And Da Nang murmurs a song of heartbreak in the background of this unholy war. And she can roil and churn and thunder, and the water can scream like daughters who were sold to bars by their families, and try to drown in these clear blue waters, while the tide ebbs and flows forever on, while the rain silhouettes the female form, the sound of jets, the sight of fishing nets, and the water sways soft and strangely warm. This next one's called The Briefing. And it happened to me the first day I landed in Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. He gathered us onto the flight line in the middle of a sunny afternoon, where we had a clear view of the hills around the base, several shades of bright and darker green, going all the way up to the brown and chewed tops that had been laid waste by helicopter clearing pad bombs, not designed to be anti-personnel, but used like that anyway, regardless. In the plateau, in the middle ground, red dirt and scrub dappled the vegetation. He began, I know it seems quiet now, but peaceful even, but that can change fast. Any minute those hills could burst forth with mortars and rockets, and the perimeter might ping with sparkling gunfire. You are not safe. You will not be safe until you leave this country. Meantime, remember that an attack on this base happens about every 6 days or so. We've lost men in their beds at night. We've lost them in the mess hall, even in the NCO club, dancing and drinking. You will likely hear a whistle first, and as soon as you do, hit the dirt, get out of buildings, avoid trees, find a trench that you can lay in. You are not safe. If you want to live, then I only need to tell you this once. Duck and cover, hide yourself quickly. There is no one here to save you, but you. You are not safe. Dismissed. This one's called In the Midst of War. She led me to the marketplace. I bought a big bag of rice, some dried fish, bananas. Then she led me down a dusty road toward a corrugated tin roof shack next to the tracks, where 14 from 4 generations lived like sneak thieves vying for space to sleep or sit. When grandmother saw us and the food, she cleared a space for me to rest while she cooked, and in between stirring and mixing, introduced me to several thin young men and women whose deep-set eyes told mixed, silent stories, and many cheerfully oblivious hungry children. When the food was ready, she sat me down and indicated I should eat. I asked her to join me, but "You go first," was all she said. "You go first." They gathered around me, smiling, watching until I stopped. Many of those lookers hadn't eaten in days, but I was the guest who brought the food, so I had to fill my belly first. I was being taught a lesson in manners beyond hunger. The food disappeared quickly after that. I was humbled and embarrassed by this unexpected propriety and stared through the sunlit open doorway. "Where does that road lead?" I asked everyone. "Nowhere," they said. "That road leads nowhere. You can stay here as long as you like." The last one I want to read is called "Let Me See You Plain." Unadorned and unguarded, without the makeup of your professional world or the faces you wear to convince, influence, connive, I want to see the dirt under your fingernails, a smudge on your cheek from good hard work, done because you like doing it. Show me the broken tooth in the back of your mouth that you got from biting on hard candy. Give me a full view of your scars, of your rips and tears. Let all the seams burst with laughter or cry because your weary body can't keep up with your teeming brain. Let me see you plain. There is no better way to love you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Wow.
Lovely.
Good job.
George.
Teeming brain.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
George.
Thank you, George. It was a tough time back then.
Amen.
Yeah.
That was my last one, Tony. Tony, you're muted.
See, this thing sometimes mutes me and sometimes, never mind. It's not worth complaining about. Anyway, hi, George. How are you? I have a question for you. Do you have the Martin Lake Journal from last year that we're both in?
Yes.
Can you read that piece for me? Because I really liked that piece when you read it when we all did the Martin Lake Journal, and I really liked that piece. And we have extra time, so I wanted to see if you'd read that one for us. I wish I had the Jeopardy music to play, but I don't. Plus, I'd probably get hit with a copyright issue. Can't find it?
No, I'm not sure where it is.
Oh, well. All right. It
Sorry.
was worth asking. Okay. Well, I'm going to mute you back up here, George. And then I want to, before we go on to our next person, I want to talk with Patrick here. Patrick, are you there?
Yeah.
All right. Patrick was our artist today. So when you logged on, you were seeing paintings going. And Patrick was also a temporary host of this show when Dave needed a hiatus back in what, 2018 was it?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You did 3 or 4 shows, right?
Yep.
So he was the host and curator during that time. So he's been in this chair.
Not that chair. We did it live then.
Yeah, we did it at Sisyphus. So I wanted to ask you about your paintings because you haven't been painting all that long, have you?
It was my New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
To start painting.
So you got, well, there's like 25 paintings, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So what made you want to do it, and what do you think about when you do it? What brought you?
I was stuck with my writing. I wasn't, to not pull any punches. I wasn't doing shit, and what I was doing was not satisfying at all. And so I needed an outlet, and I've never been a visual artist, and I thought, I'm going to give this a shot. So I bought a bunch of canvases and literally would put on a record and paint while that record was playing. And when the record was done, I kind of walked away from the painting.
I wish we had the records with each painting. That'd be interesting to see.
I have them somewhere. I'm not very good at doing this, give it a name
Well,
stuff.
and I also gave you a whole bunch of time to put this thing together. I think I asked you.
Yeah.
That's not really your fault. But it would be interesting. We did put your Instagram into the chat so that people can find you if you're posting work in the future.
Yeah.
And then someday, hopefully soon, I can get you to do poetry on this show again.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it is. But thank you for talking with me. I just wanted to let people know that you're the artist and put a face to the name.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yep.
All right. Now back to the program. Now let me go to the next person here. Is it gonna unmute or no? It's gonna. I am clicking it to unmute. Hold on.
Oh, now maybe his.
Hold on. That was my fault. I did that. Everybody awake? Good. There we go. Okay, so I'm such a good host that I didn't do this ahead of time, but is it Dara or
Dara.
Dara. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm a super good host. Dara Syrkin is the editor by trade and lives by the motto, writing is a team sport. She's dedicated to digging in the dirt, two-wheeled vehicles, and the serial comma. You can find her at the website, www.darasyrkin.com. Everybody, please welcome Dara Syrkin.
Hey. You guys, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for bringing your energy and presence to this one spot for supporting poets and art. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, stellar brave poets who have put their hearts and souls out into the world. As I was gathering poems that I felt like reading tonight, as usually happens, a theme popped up. And all of the poems that I'll read tonight, some my own and bookended by Naomi Shihab Nye poems, are about kindness, friends, and neighbors. All right, so that's the theme. We'll start with Naomi, her poem, Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go, so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the threads of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to gaze at bread. only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. That's Naomi. She had 9. You guys. My affinity for Lady Liberty started a few years ago when I saw Lady Liberty on a street corner in Minneapolis, hawking accounting services. You too have probably seen Lady Liberty. She's all genders, she's all races, she's on many street corners at, March, April. But my Lady Liberty in my brain, she's doing all kinds of stuff. And today she's going out to lunch with Justice because, why not? Liberty at lunch. Liberty invites Justice to lunch. No need to get a cab, Liberty says, I'll drive. Liberty reads the diner menu aloud as Justice fusses over where to park her scales. They've been friends for decades, relying on each other when being so big becomes too much. Justice always asks about Liberty's poetry and how all her sisters are doing. Liberty asks if Justice is keeping up her weightlifting regimen and if she's spreading herself too thin. They discuss international border crossings and wonder if truth rests in, if you want peace, work for justice. They finish their samosas and kebabs and order coffee and apple pie. Justice says, let's not rush. Liberty squeezes her friend's hand and says, all we have is time. Thank you. During a pandemic, I figured Liberty would take action. So here she is, Lady Liberty dusts off her sewing machine. Liberty sees the volume of destruction. She listens to the scientists, then sets down her torch and tablet and starts sewing masks to help people keep COVID-19 to themselves, to help protect healthcare workers and first responders, to do something. Liberty sews anxiously as she takes on the responsibility of someone's well-being. She wonders if one size fits most and if cheerful cloth will urge people to be responsible to the herd. Ties or elastic. If she cries while making the mask, will the wearer? As coffins stack up, a frenzied few try to justify their right to infect their community. People still talk about the stock exchange and the economy. Liberty understands economies, the economy of poverty in particular. But she's driven by emerging facts and the river of tears flowing at her feet. Woven into the destruction is the beauty of neighbors, near and far. They harbor the tempest-tossed, tired, and homeless. They share bread and rice, and they make masks. Thank you. Yay. This poem is from a series devoted to an old neighbor, Al. Neighborly. He lent his heat gun when we needed to scrape paint off the garage. Came back minutes later with the tools case and all the attachments. He gave me material dug out of a nook in his basement, explained the loosely woven strings are perfect for removing car wax. Don't throw it away. He handed me a Rodale book on composting after he saw me turning leaves and kitchen scraps with the garden fork. He gave us 100-year-old raspberry canes that traveled from the farm in Iowa to his house in the city. He won't accept a half pint of raspberry sauce. Says he knows how much work it takes to make that kind of thing. He thinks we should buy this house from our landlady. He says we're neighborly. Al. I'll have you know that Al's raspberry plants are another house away doing absolutely beautifully. Thank you, Al. Okay, this one touches on that place where sorrow and kindness meet. It's normalcy. Every time I cut cabbage, I'm back in Hildy and Alfred's kitchen, taking directions to fetch and stir salt and steam. Hildy quartered the cabbage, then handed me a single blade shredder made in Germany. Like her, it had a harsh edge. Her days were full of keeping house while navigating Parkinson's. My days were full of burying the lives of the dead, cleaning and clearing until only the shell of Mom and Dad's house remained. Hildy let me be at her elbow each evening. Alfred added a place setting at the table. They taught me how to play their favorite card game, told me about the early days, what it meant to be a poor Czech girl, an outsider in a warring world, and how they met. Alfred worked in the cabinet shop, Hildy in the house of a wealthy family in Germany. My parents' neighbors had always been neighborly. Dad and Alfred talked shop and lawns. Hildy brought over picture-perfect baked goods at holidays. I didn't know them well, but they knew me as the orphan I was and wrapped me in the strange normalcy of buttery carrots and card games and cabbage. Sweet. You guys are sweet. Okay, I'll wrap up with Tony Signal. I'll wrap up with another poem by Naomi Shihab Nye. It's called Feather. I'm going to read 2/3 of it. Feather. She's walking up the street from Sanitary Tortilla with her pink mesh shopping bag. Mrs. Esquivel of the waving plants, front porch lined with leaves. In softer light, she dances with sheets. She came here from the old days, slipped out of the old days like a feather, floated here with her aluminum pot lids and blue enamel spoons tied to her wings, fanning the heat away with an apron, ruffled rickrack edge. She believed in the screen door, its tiny holes letting in breeze. She preceded thieves and reasons for locking. She held on to all her paper fans. Her "¿Cómo estás?" has a heart in it. If I said no good, she would listen. Sometimes the grass grows so tall in the vacant lot beside her house. Fancy pink vines tie knots around the head of weeds. She swims through the field at sundown, calling out to hens, cats, whoever might be lost in there. Hey you, it's time to come home. And the people drifting slowly past in the slim envelope of light answer softly, here I am. Isn't that the best?
She's
Naomi
wonderful.
Shihab.
Nice.
I love her.
Wow.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Eve
much.
in the screen door is a really cool line.
Oh, thank you.
Sarah.
That was wonderful.
Lady Liberty. I wonder.
And I am muted. Okay, now I am unmuted, which is good. Okay. Sorry, I muted you, Wendy. But we're going to get to our last featured poet, which I'm very excited about. But before that, just a couple more things I wanted to mention. first of all, if you know any poets that have not been on our show, we are not a show that you need to rehearse or audition for. I should say you can rehearse all day, but if you know anybody, there's a survey right here on our homepage, which again is crackedwalnut.poetsandpints.com, crackedwalnut.com/poets and pints, I should say. If you click right here, there's a survey. The survey takes like 30 seconds. All they got to do is fill it out, and then eventually we'll get you on the show. You know, sometimes it takes longer than other times. I apologize for that. But the reason is usually just because we're trying to diversify the show. And so some people have to wait just because, well, if I'm being frank, it's because they're white people. And we're trying to make sure that we have a nice, diverse show because that's what you should do as a host and curator. So please note that we will get you on. I don't exclude anybody. Dara and George waited a particularly long time, and I apologize for that, but we were supposed to have them on in March, along with Thressa Johnson and Didi Coca, and I was going to just make this show that show, but Thressa couldn't make it, and neither could Didi. So then I found a few other poets to be on the show. So I appreciate your patience, George and Dara. Also, I wanted to mention that our usual home is at Sisyphus Brewing, which is right behind Dunwoody. If you've never been there, if you've never been to our show, maybe you're online from out of town. And if you ever come to Minneapolis happens to be the third Wednesday, you should really stop into our show. But Sisyphus Brewery is trying to stay alive in this quarantine mess, and they are doing curbside pickups. So they are not paying me to do a spot. I just want to have a home when this whole thing is over. So please, if you are a beer drinker or even sodas, they do sell sodas, you can order online, and then you can just drive right up to their door and call them and tell them you're here, and they'll bring your order right out to you, right? Curbside pickup. So it's really handy. And again, they're trying to stay alive. So if you're anywhere near downtown Minneapolis, please consider buying from Sisyphus Brewing, because I love those people and I love our home, and I want it to be there when we're all done with this madness. Now, without further ado, let me bring him on here. So, did it work? Don't make me, there we go. Keith?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So, I'm going to read his bio. I had to shorten it because he sent me a book for a bio, and so I didn't want to read the whole thing. But
it was my first book.
I met Prim at a thing that used to be called Poetry Underground or Pound, which was an open mic. Was it every Wednesday or Thursday?
It was every Wednesday, and the slam was every first Wednesday, but the open mic was every Wednesday.
Open mic was every Wednesday at the Uptown Arts Bar, which doesn't exist in Kansas City anymore. And I used to live in Kansas City for about a little close to 2 years. And so I met Prim there, and he just blew my mind out the back of my skull. And so been trying to get him on the show. He was supposed to be on September of last year, I think, or maybe even the year before.
Yeah, sounds right.
But it just didn't work out. And so now I have him, and I'm very excited. I think you should be excited too, but I'm going to read the bio here. So Keith Bohannon, aka PrimOne, is a Kansas City-based poet, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and producer. He's been honing his craft for over a decade. Due to his diverse subject matter, he's gained an eclectic following of fans that often quote his lines during his performances. Guilty. He was named the winner of the Poetic Underground AKKA Karate 2014 Dragon Slam Poetry Tournament, earning him the nickname the Bruce Lee of Poetry. He was a member of the 2014 Pound Slam team, Kansas City's first nationally accredited poetry team. He was nominated in the Pitch, which is like our city pages here, in the Pitch's weekly Best of edition for Best Spoken Word Artist in 2015. And he was named First Friday Poet of the Month in April 2016 via the founders of the Music and More Foundation. He's been a featured performer at a number of venues in Kansas City as well as Greater Missouri. Everybody, please welcome PrimOne.
Hello. Am I on? Can people see me? Am I good?
You're good. Go. You're
Awesome. Okay. Well, I just want to say, first of all, I want to give like a round of applause to the other three poets that performed right before. Oh my God, I love you guys. Kidding me, I can't believe that you just got started doing this. You're absolutely great. George, it was an honor. I mean, you can feel the experience in what you're doing. I really love it. And Dara, I absolutely love the emotional aspect of what you were doing. I just want to at least put that out there. I want to try to do about 3. We want to see, because they're not the shortest poems, but we'll try. And I'll give you guys a heads up. I am not the most PC poet. So if anybody needs earmuffs, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this first poem is kind of an introduction to that same topic. It is entitled Revolution. Can everybody hear me okay? Good, okay. So, some people tell me that I curse too much. Let me think. Fuck them. And my reasoning for that response is because for every soul that claims that my words are too harsh, there's another that states that they're not nearly harsh enough. And I have finally established that in the eyes of the masses, I'm either as accessible as Will Smith or as crude as Loaded Lux. And there is absolutely, positively no room for an in-between, buffering, deleting all previous data entries. The following message is brought to you by the man, aka the 1%, aka the machine. Hello, folks. It's time for some good old-fashioned American whitewashed editing in hopes of expanding my market. So allow me to re-up that previous statement and try this again in an attempt to not alienate the less ghetto, urban members of my audience. I am either as accessible as Will Smith or as crude as, let's say, Samuel L. Jackson. Because while he's a brash, bombastic, abrasive black man, he's the catchphrase slinging, say what? One more time, downright lovable kind. And maybe that's been the problem with my art all along. Maybe I should just get out these streets and give up my grind, let go of that shoot sideways, pitching yo at the Benito's, rolling dice with my woes on the corner of 63rd and Smoke while taking 40s to the head and pouring out for the dead, rap battling trash shit that I have never lived or even pretended that I did. However, on those seldom nights that I should choose to chill in power and light, I can easily spot the judgment in the eyes of all who would blindly testify to otherwise. And in these intellectually lonely moments, I acknowledge that the knowledge that I am feverishly consumed with is useless. Therefore, to hell with my influence. Fuck the movement. Fuck the revolution, because the bullshit is what's televised. In a room with nothing but zombified consumers, tell me, what good is all of our artistry or to even exercise our freedom of speech? It is like hopping on a treadmill in an attempt to not burn calories. And in either instance, you have to admit that running in place for no fucking reason is just plain ignorant. It is just plain devil's advocate for the simpletons disguised as listeners, disguised as true lovers of the arts, that the few among us in every crowd. Wait, shh, simmer down, you hear that? The sound of my self-righteousness is getting quite loud. I can barely hear myself. Stop giving a fuck. Wow. Jesus Christ, that was clever. Pat on the back, high five. At least I still hear me, right? At least you still feel me, right? You, the ones who aren't judging me for judging them. The ones who snap, stomp, clap, and dance to songs with third grade reading level content but Trump poetic musings all as emotional nonsense. Of course, what we do is nonsensical to the mindless. This poem is purely my inevitable acceptance. Our words, poets, our words. They are not just spoken. They are medicine injected through the ear. The only side effect here is a free thought process. Meanwhile, the greedier and less passionate have a shinier pill to peddle. It is simply marketed as, wait for it, lying, better known as the first art form. It's outselling us in the homes, in heads, in stadiums, in bars, and in merch stores across the globe. The opportunist of our craft, airplane feed these catchy little placebos into the mouths, the ears, and the eyes of the people, 1,000 milligrams at a time. To think in between this nation, driven by enslavement of ourselves from that gap in the middle of this country built on wealth, guns, bigger guns, and more guns, hypocrisy, and demolishing the course of cultural history, there still stands a few wordsmiths unafraid to wield a pen and protest. I do this for them. I do this for you. The chosen few who hear the frustration in my words and know exactly why I wrote them. To understand that these rappers have it backwards. We don't put poems in these songs. We make songs out of these poems, but still reserve the right to say fuck in the middle of a sentence that might change your life. So what do we write? Poets. Why do we listen? Poets. Why do we speak? Poets. Because we need this. Poets. That's why we do it. Because we need our influence. Because we need our movement. Because we need our revolution right the fuck now. Because we need immortality. Because we need these words to mean something. So remember, poets. The next time someone tells you that you curse too much, and that I curse too much, and that we curse too much, the proper response that we all should go with is, fuck them. Thank you. That was my first poem. Oh, thanks, Tony. You guys are awesome. Let me see. I'm gonna try to do another one here. It's been a while for this next one. I'm gonna give it a shot though. This one is called Warning Call. And I generally freestyle the ending of this. This one is about being a rapper / poet and how nobody seems to really understand how that even really works, including us. So here we go. This is called Warning Call. If I don't fuck it up. This is for the majestic rapper / poet. And it doubles as a warning for rappers that bash poets and for poets that cannot comprehend that rap isn't just toting. This is potent. This is a false sense of entitlement released unto the wild again. For those who criticize each other with no purpose but to start some shit. My only purpose is that the spark is lit for a fire bigger than mine. This is an objective to take precaution with. Never feed the flame with a bigoted mind. You see, bigotry doesn't end at our ethnicity. It can bleed into artistry and demolish our chemistry, and admittedly, mainstream rap is slipping. We're getting drunk off the energy. Swear the lyrics is Hennessy like, whoa. Trying to detox my kidneys. I turn the radio wall. The withdrawals are killing me like, whoa. People are telling me to chill on all of that Black Rob shit, but I don't give a fuck who hates it. I'm peddling outdated references because they're relevant still. If criticism was currency and people's lives for money, apparently PrimOne just signed himself a hell of a deal. Poets will smile in your face. Some of these poets, they're faking. They'll put you to shame just to see their fucking face in the paper, but I ain't saying no names. Nobody ask me later who it was, because if you or anyone you know are offended, then you already know what's up. But people are steady trying to push it like a beat up Honda Civic road tripping with a donut bus. You see, I didn't really want to do it, but any of these rappers can get it. Excuse me. I didn't really want to do it, but anybody can get it. Oh my God. I told you it's been a while. Let me try it. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Let me see. Let me see. Let me go back. I think I got one. I'm trying to prove how. There we go. Backwards, backwards, backwards. People smelling your face. There we go. You see, I didn't really want to do it, but anybody can get it. With these lyrics, I'm like planters. I'm nothing but nuts. Fuck punch drunk. This poem is a Gatling gun. In fact, fuck that. The poem is the poem at all. This is a warning call to all involved. To all the hipsters who believe the real hip hop is gone, and to all of the rap homies that don't know me and judge me purely because I do poetry. But if you ask them to strip away the beat and speak with validity, accuracy, they'd have to cold his feet like a newlywed Eskimo virginal couple the very first time they try to hit the sheets. Damn, that's cold. And to think, I used to get caught up on trying to prove how bold I am to snowmen, comparing the temperature of my feet to that of Mr. Freeze, when in actuality, I was packing the kind of heat that made them nervous, like trying to qualify for a nationally certified poetry team with strep throat while you can barely speak, that kind of nervous, or like being new to the scene and having to step on a stage with two of the most decorated poets in your city to date and having to read for an hour apiece, that kind of nervous. But never mind me and my past fears and achievements. Let's get back to business. Let's get back to a universal condition. Let's get back to checking facts on cats who plainly or rap gods without any true comprehension of the real rap religion congregation. I hope you are listening. You see, I hear these new rappers and sometimes I can't lie, that more often than not I get lost in translation. You can't even tell what they're saying and the flows are so lazy. These motherfuckers must be crazy. Man, it's some bullshit to hustle this music and realize how many of these rappers are playing, but I don't be tripping. I don't be bugging out these cockroaches. I exterminate them. Pop, 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 pop. Swap them, I spray them, I break up the decon, I'm quick on the faker like, yeah. But please, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I hope none of this is misconstrued as hatred. To all of the rappers and poets that really do this shit, I salute your contribution. More power to them. More power than they know what to do with. Enough power to never pledge allegiance to the slam, but to pledge allegiance to your stance on who you are and why you speak. Enough power to know that the censorship is deep in these streets, that the public will put labels on all of us if we let them. Music is a weapon and words ammunition. The shit means nothing if the trigger is sticking. The shit means nothing if the clip is empty. These rappers, these poets, this silly, they're out here pistol whipping. I'm a soldier drafted in the war on ignorance. Please, abort the mission if you're not in the trenches. Please, don't call this rapping just because it's rhythmic. Please, don't bother clapping if you're not fucking listening. Bearing my soul when I might as well be fucking whispering. True shit, no lie. You and your friends just might still be thinking, oh, shucks, it's a rap poet guy. That sure is cute. But I'm not just some rap dude or a poet you can snap to. I'm not just some trap dude or a gold chain black dude. I'm a verbal violence type. I'll use my vernacular to peel your cap, dude, and put some knowledge in your noggin and peel it back, dude, because I had to. Wait, backtrack. I didn't have to, but someone had to. You were past due, way past due. I'm light years way past you at my own pace. I'm the male Medusa. I'm turning rappers and poets stone-faced on my Greek mythology shit, on my Hercules shit. I'm not trying to be shit. I'm just out here beasting on my off-the-leash shit. I'm just trying to eat shit. I'm devouring shit on the sites of seeing shit. I'm just trying to reach them. I'm trying to tear the benchmark to pieces. I'm trying to leave you all stuck on these words like adhesive long after I am gone, long after I am done, long after I am dust, long after I am ashes in the wind, recycle back into the oxygen that you breathe in. I want to know that I'll be literally and metaphorically entrapped in your lungs, and my only escape from your ribcage will be onto a page or out from a stage, that you know that this is sincere, that you know that this is legit, that this is no rehearsed bullshit. I am clearly rough around the edges, and I'm freestyling off the top just so you know that this is what I bit with, this is what I meant with everything in my being, everything in my soul. I've never done this shit online. Tony brought me into this thing, to this rodeo, so I can give you all of my heart, all of my intentions, all of my passion. And this is something that I see in every poem that I've heard tonight. This is something that I see in all of your eyes, and I want you all to know that this is no show just for the sake of bullshit. This is purely and only a warning call to all involved. That was my second poem. Sorry about that. I think I got spit on my camera. It's crazy. Okay, so now we're gonna try one more. This one, the other two that you just heard are from this book that I have. It's actually, it's entitled Weapons of Choice. I don't have any copies available. I know I'm so unprofessional, but I would like to get some copies soon enough, so stay in touch with me. I've been doing them physically. I don't want to do the online thing because I'm weird and I like to tangibly give people poetry books because I'm a weirdo. So if you want to get a book, stay in touch with me. I plan on getting more copies, but even more so, I plan on releasing another book in the near future. And this next poem is going to be in that book. This next poem was something that was written when I lost my love for this stuff for a while because I didn't feel inspired and I didn't feel like regurgitating the same things over and over. Anyway, enough of my jargon. This next poem is entitled The Ocean. Precursor. I was not high as fuck when I wrote this. But with that being said, in this moment, if I had one wish, I would like to be able to communicate with the ocean. Now you can laugh, but this is some serious shit. You see, the sea would be all seen upon personification. It gave birth to history, and the byproduct of its being is found within nearly everything, including about 60% of that watery frame you're probably using to convey such judgmental body language to me right now. So why would I not want to be able to communicate with the ocean? Why wouldn't I want a chance for the first time in my life, after so many sleepless nights, after so many shattered relationships, after so many moments of abandonment, after so many moments of scoping in the open caskets and wishing that the pine would spell a passenger seat for a two-man occupancy, after so many neon lit indications that no matter how much love I receive from my loved ones, once that love's gone, I'm on my fucking own. Why wouldn't I want a chance for the first time in my life to speak to myself and not feel alone, to feel as though the world could hear me, to feel as though the world was listening? Why would I not want to be able to communicate with the ocean, to speak with the ocean openly and never have my tears be seen as a sign of weakness, but only as a contribution to its body? Now, don't snap and react like you get me if you ain't got me. The conversation I'm discussing would not be crazy. The conversation I'm discussing would be godly. What if I were able to communicate with the ocean? I wonder what it would think of this poem that I wrote it. I wonder if the sky would swell with her tears. I wonder if it would rain on the day I expressed my love for her labors. I wonder if she would just ball this shit up and throw it in the trash the way I probably would have if it ever made it to paper. I wonder if she hates us. I wonder how she feels about her opportunistic little creations. I wonder how she feels about the slave ships that she was raped by. About the fact that we abused her sole purpose to purely create lives and used her as a vindictive tool to take lives. Oh, yes, the stories that she could tell. That's why the biggest question I gotta ask myself is if I were able to communicate with the ocean, I wonder what the ocean would say to me. I wonder how that conversation would affect the way I think. Shit. I wonder how that conversation would affect the way I breathe. One moment of her history, one moment of her misery would feel like my eternity. She would wrap me up into the crashing of her waves, into the arms of her pain so tight, I would begin to feel as though I was drowning, and that would be okay with me, because at least then I could die knowing that I lived with the truth in my lungs, literally, even if only for a second. That's why I bet that if I were able to communicate with the ocean would understand me. I would be able to express my hobbies and my interests freely without its reaction ever being. I think it's awesome that you sing rock music and defy the stereotypes. I don't see color at all, man. Hey, by the way, have you ever listened to Hootie and the Blowfish? Have you ever listened to Seven Dust? Hey, have you ever listened to Jimi Hendrix? You see in a conversation with the ocean, these types of things are never needed to be said. Therefore, I'd never be expected to temper my response with such nonsense or bite my tongue with reactions like this. Thanks, man. On those days, most days where I really don't give a shit, and I want to spaz with reactions more like this. Why, thank you, person of European descent, for needlessly pointing out the fact that you're cool with the fact that I'm black, while needlessly pointing out the fact that I'm black, while claiming that you can't tell that I'm black, while patting yourself on the back in the process. That's mighty white of you, and I'm sure you don't see color at all. You have no idea what to do in traffic when the light turns red. You just put your foot on the gas, crank up the Allman Brothers, and pray for the best, don't you? And who the fuck hasn't listened to Jimi fucking Hendrix? Get the fuck out of my face with that shit. But I digress. My point is, if I were able to communicate with the ocean, all the pain, all the rage, and all the stress that resides inside of me would cease to be, and I would finally find peace inside of the tide. I would finally feel as though the world could hear me. I would finally feel as though the world was listening, because it would be if I, if you, if we, when we are all able to communicate with the ocean. Thank you.
Wow.
Oh man!
Wow,
crap.
wow,
That's phenomenal. That was
Good job, Keith.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
You guys are great.
wow!
Let my breath out now.
I am blown away.
Shit, George, thank you.
Go with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Yay.
You're muted.
Trying to unmute Keith again because I wanted to ask him a question and it's not letting me for some reason. Oh, there we go. Hey, Keith. Prem, you there? Wait, it says I'm not. Wait. Keith, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So that was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Seriously, like everybody before me that went on, man, you all brought something really amazing to this thing, and it's really fun. I really appreciate it. It's a different experience, for sure.
Well, and I like to use you as an example in the sense that, so here locally, I teach a workshop on how to perform poetry.
I can't hear you.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. Okay. How about now? Am I good now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here locally, I teach a workshop on how to perform poetry. To try to get people to liven up at poetry readings, because too many people stand there with their book and they're just like reading from the book. And I just want to tell them, why don't you just hand me the book and then I'll read it. But what I like about you and the air that you put out is that I've had the opportunity. At first I thought it was a curse, but then now I call it an opportunity to perform after you. And it is, you can't just go up there with your book if you're going to go after Prim, because people have been brought up in their energy, and if you don't keep them up there, you're going to feel it even if they don't say anything. So I appreciate that about you. I look forward to an opportunity to work with you again. Me and Prim did a poem in my second book, Aging and Other Side Projects, called Breathing the Story. So if you have this book, give that poem a read. We got an opportunity to perform it one time. And then I had him open, because I did a book release in Kansas City for my last book. I also did one here, but in Kansas City, he opened for me. And that was a lot of fun. That was a really good time. So I appreciate you finally being on the show. I'm glad we could make it work. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to go to a break. It's not going to be a very long break, probably 10 minutes. So people can use the bathroom, get something to drink, whatever you need to do. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do our open mic. I know that a lot of people will take this opportunity to leave. So I want to say now that we are a nonprofit. And if you'd like to help us out at all, we do take donations on our website at crackedwalnut.com. Right on the homepage, there's a donate button, and it just goes right to PayPal. So if you are already in PayPal, it's crackedwalnutmn as in Minnesota. crackedwalnutmn@gmail is our PayPal. Please, give us $1, give us, whatever you can. We appreciate it. We're trying to keep afloat here, and we're trying to create new programs. And so we appreciate all that you do. And we will see you here. I'm going to put Patrick's artwork back up, and I'm going to play some music for a bit, and then we'll be back. And I hope to see you all back. But if you don't come back, the remainder of the show is being put on Facebook Live, which will then be available later to watch on Facebook in our Facebook group. So thank you, all the featured poets. Again, a round of applause. Make sure that people can see it for Kennedy Lang, George Colburn, Dara Syrkin, and PrimOne. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all in a bit.
Think of her, music, maestro, please. Tonight I must forget how much I need her. So, Mr. Leader, play your lilting melodies, ragtime, jazz time, swing, any old thing to help me ease the pain that solitude can bring. She used to like waltzes, so please don't play a waltz. She danced divinely, and I loved her so, but there I go tonight. I mustn't think of her, no more memories. Swing off tonight, I must forget. Music, maestro, please.
Okay. Welcome everybody back to the show. My name is Tony Plocido. If you're just joining us, you missed a really good part of the show, and you should really watch it back later because the featured poets have all gone. But now we're going to get into another fun part, which is the open mic. And we're going to start out here with a longtime friend of the show. In fact, he's been on the show a couple of times. If the unmute would ever work. I'm just killing time until it says he's not muted anymore. Hold on. I am.
Everybody's unmuted.
Yeah, everybody's unmuted. No, they're muted again. And Brian, can you hear me? Is it still muted for you? Why? There we go.
Here.
Yeah, there you are.
I'm all good.
So Brian is the person that recommended Kennedy, and so you were Kennedy's teacher, correct?
Yes, Kennedy took some classes for me at North Hennepin.
Nice. Well, welcome to the show, and welcome to the open mic. Give us one poem, 2 minutes or less.
All right, will do. Is everyone hearing me okay? Just quick check. All right, good. So the one poem I'm going to do is a new one that I just wrote over the last, I don't know, month or so. And just kind of a basic setup, like many of us dealing with all of the shit that's been going on now and being kind of stuck on our own, doing a lot of checking in on other people. So this is kind of my check-in poem, if you will. It's called We Never Saw It Coming, Except When We Did, or Are You Okay? This refrain of the winter sun, a song we sing with dry lips, but it's not that, or that, or that. Are you okay? And maybe this is where we start to make you happy. Our allergies, our sunscreen pressed hard into eye sockets and the eyes we've left behind. Are you okay? We dream ask in unfamiliar mothers' voices like an absent echo of something in a past life, each sound cracking. If you put your fingers below the earth, the quake fits inside your palm and you own us, the rest, like firecrackers in mid-July, popping in daytime, a sound no one sees made, and there I am, a tiny explosion, pinched between fingertips. I am a nerve twinging, while you bend over with a dark shadow and the sun is stolen from above us in the wide open and we claim we never saw it coming. Your hand squeezes, earth moves away from you, the demolition before construction. You say, are you okay? And our tiny sounds squeak, breathless, while we pop. Thank you.
Wow. That was powerful imagery.
Thank you. Really good. Got it.
That's my teacher. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Kennedy.
Thank you. All right, let's mute everybody here. And then the next person, as soon as I find them, let's see. All right, it worked. Jana.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thanks, Tony, for hosting the show and inviting us to be a part of it, and for everyone who's listening, and shout out again to all of our featured poets. That was fabulous. All right, here's my poem. I miss your hands. Hold them close to the camera so I can kiss them. Let them graze the edge of my thoughts like a whisker. Let them take hold of my doorknob heart, pry up the shingles until I'm open to the sky. Your hands are two sparrows rising and settling, one melody playing in two different keys. Let your hands dance with the knives of memory's kitchen. Let them turn up time's collar and unpack midnight's duffel bag. Let them find the small wounds. Let them fold up my memories like a suitcase. Without your hands, the windows weep The laundry unfolds itself. The lamps forget to burn. Send me your hands. My dreams will clap wildly. The leaves will fly upward. Send me your hands. Let them bring me my breakfast, pour me my wine. Send me your hands. Hands of rhinestone and buttermilk, of night sky and roses. I miss your heart singing, dawn enfolding, longing born hands. Send me your hands.
Oh my goodness.
Holy.
That was
Wow.
awesome. Good job, Jana.
Was that the hands
That was really
exercise?
good.
The hands prompt, Jana?
The one
Or-
that Susan gave out over email.
Oh, okay.
Or no, someone gave it out over email. Yes, it was a prompt.
Jana,
Before
someone
I
asked
mute-
in chat about the prompt. Do you remember it?
It was basically write a poem about hands.
Okay.
Simple.
No subtlety there.
So just because there is one simply marked iPhone, is Esther on the call? Because she signed up to be on the open mic, but I don't see her. So
Whoever is iPhone.
Oh.
all right, I just wanted to make sure that
I heard
wasn't
you.
her. So let me mute everybody here. And then our next person is River. Are you able to talk?
Hello.
You are able to talk. Yay.
I can talk. No. I have an old poem, and it's what I'd say to begin with is, if you're Indian, if you're Native American, and you run into another Native American, the first thing they ask you is where you're from. And this is my response. Where are you from? I'm from the rich, dark soil that grew your grandma's food. The one that kept her long braid and made fry bread with chili. I'm from the cool, crisp waters that flow behind your house. The river that bathes your stones and sings you lullabies. I'm not ignoring the question, just getting to it in a roundabout way. You ask me where I'm from the places I call home. The city of my youth by big waters and the valley that holds me now. But wait, you want to know my roots, the home of my ancestral blood. I'm a woman of the earth, swimming in the waters, a city dweller and a country gal. I am Anishinaabe Ekwe, an Ojibwe woman, and I'm an American mutt too. I am the first generation coming home.
Ooh.
Yeah, nice.
Can I make one little announcement?
Yes.
Okay, a bunch of us on Sunday nights are having an open mic, Sunday night open mic, and if somebody messages me on Facebook, we could pass on the link. That's all.
Nice.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks, Trevor.
All righty. So moving right along here. Now the next person we had on the list was Seymour Perspective, but I don't think he made it on either. See here, I'll just unmute everybody for a second. Seymour, are you here somehow secretly? Guy's a ninja.
Masquerading.
Can't hear you, Tone.
He's too busy time traveling, maybe.
I said, is Seymour here?
Oh.
All right, he's not here. So hold on. So I'm gonna mute everybody, and then hold on 1 second here. Okay, and then our person up next is Derek. Derek, take it away.
All right. Thanks a lot. And this was really a fun night. Everybody, the features and the open mics have been great. Quick mic check then. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, I see thumbs. Good. All right, I'm a poet and I also went to a nerdy tech school, so sometimes those meet, and this is called Poetry Isotopes. Poetry is the chemistry of the universe, patiently waiting for us to uncover its formulas, to conduct word experiments, to fill glass beakers with line breaks, to break all the rules and find order in chaos, shaking hands with the chaos of order. Poetry is woven through the periodic table, giving meter to metals like molybdenum. Selenium syllables slide across my tongue. Dysprosium dilates my vocabulary. As palladium persists and platinum protects, thallium and thorium think hard. And while tellurium talks out loud, gallium gossips titanium tall tales. Poetic license is a new element of the periodic table, name taken straight off a Home Depot paint sample card. Its atomic number is the sound of waterfalls dancing, and its symbol is QJ because those letters are missing. Its radioactivity throws off passion particles embedding themselves in carbon-based life forms. Its isotopes cradle differing numbers of neutrons, each heavy with meaning. Thanks.
Ooh,
I like it.
Awesome.
Like
it's
it.
alliteration.
That was
Letters are
really
missing.
good. Awesome.
Nice.
I had fun staring at the periodic table for like a half an hour going, does that fit? Oh, I could do that. And then I noticed there's no element that starts or even has a Q or a J.
Oh.
I remember I'm like, oh, I got to do something with that. Thanks, everybody. That was fun.
Everybody likes a little chemistry.
Yeah. Poetry is the chemistry of the universe.
Chemistry and poetry.
Oh, when I unmute all, why am I not included in the all? Anyway, all right. Next up, we have someone I haven't heard in a long time, actually. Wendy Brown Baez,
Oh,
you are
okay.
our next poet.
All right.
Welcome to the stage.
Thanks. Thank you. So this is a poem about the pandemic, what I've been observing about the pandemic. And one of the things that really struck me is that they said the birds are actually singing louder because they're in spaces where there aren't any people. So that's what inspired this poem. When the world became quiet, the animals entered the towns and walked the beaches. The birds sang loudly, more loudly than when the humans occupied their forests and parks. The sea turned phosphorescent with life. The canal waters ran clear and fish swam. The downtowns were silent, empty of cars and shoppers. You could hear the bus going by 2 blocks away. The delivery person rang the doorbell and fled, but not before waiting to see if someone came to the door. The food banks had thousands of cars lined up to receive a temporary reprieve from hunger. The theater put on a play online and the actors played to an invisible audience. There were people walking in sunshine, paced at a distance. First to be freed in Spain were the younger kids, leaving their homes where they had been sequestered for more than a month, holding tight to their parents' hands, then zooming away on skates and bikes or being wheeled in strollers. There were dancers in their kitchens and poets in their studies and musicians in their living rooms performing with hearts of fire. I saw more people creating online than I saw in a year's time. I saw kindness blooming and taking over the Facebook feed. I saw corruption and power hammered on by the faces of those who will not come home to us. I learned to be content in 2 small rooms, and I felt my prayers, like the louder songs of the birds, ringing out more loudly too. Thanks.
Wow.
Really good,
Thank you,
Wendy.
Wendy.
Beautiful.
Very true.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay, so I said thank you very much, Wendy, but I didn't know I was muted. This is super fun.
Thank you.
All right, all right. So now we have my friend Shannon. Shannon, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right,
Oh.
give us a poem.
Can everyone hear me? You really can't tell. Okay. Tony and I recently did a book swap where we traded a copy of our books. I gave him my first collection of poetry was a breakup book, and it was very much themed about salt. I was bitter and I was salty. And I'm working on kind of a volume 2 right now, which is themed around sugar and about, it's more of a getting together book about love. This poem, I'll read it fast because it's a long one. It's called Call Me Sweetheart. It has an epigram. Your task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that have built against it. That's from Rumi. 1. My mother, when so inclined, calls me sweets. A gesture just sweet enough. A nickname given a nickname. Rationed like sugar in wartime. Like sugar in a house with not enough to go around. Perhaps on the deck, oiled up for the sun, over the hissing of a Diet Coke she always hard poured onto a mountain of crushed ice, she'd ask me, Sweets, where on earth has your sister gone? 2. She's a lady who likes to brag about how few cavities she's had throughout her life. How unstained she's kept her mouth of sweetness. Sweetness we never shared without strict dietary regulation. Sweetness we intentionally kept on the top shelf, just out of reach. Sweetness we never uttered in full. I wasn't sweetie. I wasn't sweetheart. I was sweets. 3. Our sugar-scarce pantry growing up stocked me well for years of tenderfooting around. Of liking photos as affection, of half-frosted flings and bitter-ended stings, and the blandest of blandest ghostings. When I was given a drop, I tasted a deluge, and when I was given none, I moved along, a little more bitter, but not undone. 4. My first love chose to call me Bun, not honey bun, Bun. It's like cinnamon bun, but less sweet. I think it suits you. He was probably right. Like mother, like daughter. The aspartame laced cola doesn't fall far from the tree. He left me completely sugar-free. Bitter, a ring of salt on the kitchen floor. I called my mom to tell her the news, to get at least a taste of sweets. Not sweetie, not sweetheart. Sweets. 5. It took me a long time to accept a sugar name in its fullness, in its wholeness. That was for someone else. Saccharine. Juvenile. Abundance can give you a real headache when you're used to drinking more lemon than aid. When you are a sweets in a world of sweethearts. But that ache will subside when you find someone with enough. When you choose sweetness over playing it cool, over trying too hard to not appear to be trying at all. 6. When you find sweetness in your heart, choose it. Choose it over government dietary recommendations. Choose it over what your mother kept in her icy, icy glass, in her pantry, and in her immaculate, cavity-less mouth. It will not sicken you. It will call every hummingbird in the upper Midwest and invite them to a party in your garden of thick, syrupy, sunlit love. Because when someone calls you sweetheart, and wholly means it, the soft earth you walk on does too. Thank you.
Thank
Hey.
you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Show love.
Super job, Shannon.
Thank
Let
you.
me call you sweetheart.
You're welcome to.
All right. Let me mute this. And then go through the whole rigmarole. Now, Charlie, we are going to have time for you to do a piece, but first, just because I think it would go nicely after that piece, Peter, let me unmute you. Peter, are you there, Peter? Peter
Hello.
Stein. Hello. Okay, so just so you know, Peter's been helping me tonight with keeping up with the chat and putting announcements and such in the chat, and he is the president of the League of Minnesota Poets, so he's kind of a big deal. But he has this really great poem where he counts, like one, like Shannon just did. And I was wondering if you would, what poem I'm talking about, right, Peter?
Yeah.
Will you do that poem, please?
I will, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, just give me at least a minute to, the search browser works phenomenally when you're trying to look at poems, but
we'll go to Charlie and then
okay.
and then we'll Charlie, are you ready? Thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, then I'll mute you and I'll unmute Charlie here. Charlie.
Yes, it's wonderful to be in the company of people that write. It's just great, and thank you everybody for your contributions. So this is a very new one. I did post it to one of the sites, did some changes to it. Derek, I hope that the prodigal son hasn't actually gone out of business, because I want to go see the whiskey and bourbon poem side by side. Anyway, this is called I Have Sufficient, has an epigraph. Jesus was driven out into the wilderness. He was there 40 days, tempted by Satan, from Mark, 1st chapter, 13th verse. This poem is not about religion, though it begins that way because an old story was written down and remembered. Early on, Jesus went out into the wilderness to prepare. He was there for 40 days, a long time, as long as the flood, as long as Moses on Sinai, longer than a Donald John Trump press briefing. On the 41st day, Satan, the great against, showed up and to make a deal. I've got money, prestige, power. I'd like you to do me a favor, though. Jesus gave him the side eye. Buzz off, bub. I have sufficient. I have sufficient is a good mantra. It lowers anxiety about things like making lots of money or worrying about the social status or what the neighbors think, none of which you control anyway. It makes space for connection, compassion, generosity, love, those intangible things that allow us to watch out for strangers and each other, to be a community. It isn't so great about keeping you from being thrown to lions or torn to pieces in the arenas or blamed for every catastrophe. Over time, then, the ragtag Jesus followers became more like the people around them, worried about making a living, being well regarded, friends with the neighbors. They acquired buildings and hierarchy and such. This poem is not about religion. It's not about politics either. Even when Constantine dropped in to make a deal, I've got money, prestige, and power. I'd like you to do me a favor, though. This time the church, oh yes, church, not community, said, sure. 1700 years later, in the here and now, the seduction continues. It is not about religion, nor is it about politics. It's still the same old deal. Loyalty gets you money, prestige, power. This time we are not starving. This time we are not persecuted. This time the confuser is the deranged orange emperor. This time, what will we answer when he asks us to do him a favor?
Really good,
Wow.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Nicely done, sir.
I like it.
Yeah, what will
Nice,
we do?
Charlie.
You're welcome.
All right, let me do the thing here. Hello, Peter.
Hello. All right. Numerology. There is an answer to all of this, but what? I will never know for sure, but I have unwavering confidence. But of that I have had. Oh, I'll start again. Sorry. Numerology. There is an answer to all of this, but what? I will never know for sure. Of that I have unwavering confidence. 2. I know what you're thinking. 2? Was there a 1? No, and there will be no 3. 3. When we last met, you were traveling approximately the speed of light. At the time, I was a window. 5. Where did I leave off? Did you leave? I'll start again from 4. 11. I should be sad, but I'm not, so I drink until my eyes overflow with whiskey. 4. Numbers are arbitrary. When we are born, we're handed one on a little slip of paper and told not to look. If we do, well, then our number is up. Pi. I should be angry, but even after a pint of whiskey, I only raise my fist, my voice, for a toast. Omega. We talk of end times like beginning times like end times. We never consider what happens in between. Alpha. Let's begin again. Pretend none of this ever happened, because 1.
Ooh, thank you. Love that poem. So
Interesting.
creative.
Very interesting.
Tony,
Maybe
going along with what
ordering-
you said about Peter, I think this is for him.
Yeah, he's kind of like nicely done. All right. We have all kinds of time, so I am going to read a poem of my own.
All right.
I'm trying to decide if I should do an old one or a new one.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone.
All right, my new one. Okay, my new one is. All right, so this is not fully worked out the kinks, but Shannon is one of the 2 people that have helped me with it. Kind of sent it around when I first wrote it, and Shannon gave me some pointers. I didn't use them all, but I did use some of them.
It's fine.
So I don't have a title for this piece yet, but I will get there. It was a piece that was a work in progress, and I should mute everybody like I do for everybody else. Okay, there we go. So it was a piece that was a work in progress for like 10 years, and I just finally pulled it out and decided to finish it. So honestly, I don't even remember who I started it about. I wish I did. Anyway, I presented myself as an option. I wanted to break into her crowded noise. She only saw 2 choices. It's either 1,000 nervous nights alone or 1,000 herded kids at home. Hyperbole aside, she knows an absence of freedom. She might run. She swallows poison nightly. She can rightly digest grief, and I offer no relief, only an elixir. I believe I can fix her, mix her emotions into something she can maintain, and it becomes a hangover and over and over. Without a drive inside her, she resides here in her own mind, and it's lonely. If only I didn't love her. If only I could hover above her and pick off bad thoughts before they had a chance to land. As it stands, I'm not her hero. I'm less than 0 on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm categorized as men. Followed closely with a sigh, and I can't really argue, but I'd really like to. The old tropes that gave us hope, like, nope, I'm not one of them, or you can't box me in with him. Truth is, I've hurt people too. Maybe not you, but my slate isn't clean. I've been mean to those who chose to love me, and there was no one to hover above me and pick off those bad thoughts. There never is. I'm no longer sure what my point is. Maybe it's that we always want to be everything to those we love, whether it be a spouse or kids, until we realize what everything is. Then the mountain grows taller than our sight goes. No, shit, where did I go? I stopped talking about her a minute ago. This became about me a second ago. I also seem to have walked away. Who's left to say that I even tried to break into her crowded noise? She won't have to choose. There is no choice.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we
Tony.
Thank you. So we have lots of time. We don't have to go till 10, but if anybody has a piece they'd like to do.
Past my bedtime. I am past my bedtime.
Well, I thank you for joining the call.
I loved it. It was great. Thank you. I'm going to go though.
Thanks,
Bye, Wendy.
Bye, Wendy. Thanks for the comments.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tony, this was great. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that was a really
George.
great
Thank you,
one.
Dara. Thank you,
Oh,
Prim.
this was wonderful.
Great.
And thank you, Kennedy. I didn't forget. I was trying not to talk over somebody.
We're just a bunch of roses among roses. Isn't that great?
Yes. But if anybody has another piece they'd like to do, just let me know here and I'll mute everybody else. Or we can go.
Read one that's a prompt that one of my most favorite prompts that somebody's ever given. It was
Okay,
in
let me mute everybody and then unmute you. So hold on one second, River.
Find it though. Oh, it's right there. Oh.
Hold on 1 second, River. There, you should be unmuted now.
Okay, it was write a poem in the perspective of the last tree standing. That was the prompt. And I rewrote this over and over, and I don't know, it just came, it ended up not even what I ever expected. It was really cool. I don't know if anybody's ever had that happen. But it's so weird that nobody talks. It's
a strange.
It's like you feel like, oh, okay. It's called A Sliver of Hope. I dig deep in this barren land, stretching beyond the sea into the core where I cradle the heartbeat of our mother. As she rests her tired bones, tears fall for the so-called chosen ones that drained her veins and poisoned her waters. They sat all high and mighty upon the horse's ass, drinking the vapors of self, ignoring the signs of change. They watch life become empty shadows, fueling the inevitable, fading her sliver of hope. I began to droop with thirst amongst the empty canvas of all life lost, until a little bear, out of nowhere, wrapped her arms around me, and I, the last tree standing, knew our mother was painting the world once again. Or once more, sorry.
Nice.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
I know all the humans die, but that's
Probably better for the trees.
yeah.
So if you hold on, I'm going to turn up my mic. So my mom is showing my senior picture right now in her camera. So
Oh yes.
Alan, that's my mom. Great photo. She wanted to show my senior.
Yeah, I used to be Plocido, but I took Alan back.
Yeah.
He's always been cute, so.
Yeah, I do all right. But I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. We are going, I would love to be live in June, but I doubt it at this point. I think I would have heard something from Sisyphus if we were going to be live in June. I am in contact with the people that I had scheduled for June to see if they still want to be on the show if we're virtual. If not, then I have to scramble and put together a show, but I have every intention of putting together a show one way or another. Hopefully, though, July will go off as it's supposed to. July, it's supposed to be a button poetry show where they will curate the entire show. I will just be there to watch like all the rest of it. So I appreciate everyone for coming tonight. Thank you for joining us here at Poets and Pints. And again, if you want to help us out, you can go to our website to donate. Otherwise, we're here every third Wednesday. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Good night,
Appreciate it a lot.
sweetheart.
It's great.
Bye, Mom.
I
Nice
love
job,
you.
everybody.
Good
Grace and
night.
peace for all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I can figure out how to say it. Boom. I thought I
I've made love to Sue and Joan and many others that I've known, but how I wish to be alone with Miss Elizabeth Brown. When I walk, I love to walk, and when I talk, I love to talk, and when I sleep, I love to dream of Miss Elizabeth Brown. Though I know she doesn't look like beauty in a beauty book, I'll be broken-hearted if she turns me down. Her father is a millionaire, he hasn't got a son and heir. That's why I want a love affair with Miss Elizabeth Brown.